I was not the first stone they picked up. Let me start there, because when you hear the story of David and Goliath, you hear about the giant, you hear about the boy, you hear about the sling and the forehead and the impossible victory, but no one ever asks about me. No one ever wonders what it felt like to be the stone that was chosen, not the first one, not the second or the third, but the one. I was born in the valley of Elah. That is where my story begins, not in a workshop like the clay pot, not in a garden like the tree. I was born in a dry riverbed among thousands of other stones, all of us smooth and round and forgot. The sun baked us. The rains washed us. The feet of soldiers and shepherds and merchants walked over us without ever looking down. We were nothing. We were the ground. We were the dirt that everyone walks on and no one remembers. For years that was my life, being walked on, being overlooked, being one of many. The other stones and I, we had a kind of community, not a close one. Stones do not form attachments the way living things do, but we knew each other. We felt the same sun. We heard the same sounds, the sheep bleating, the soldiers shouting, the stream trickling when the winter rains came. And then one day the shouting changed. It was not the usual shouting of soldiers training or merchants arguing. This was different. This was a voice that shook the valley, a voice so loud and so deep that I felt it in my core, vibrating through the other stones around me. "Choose a man for yourselves," the voice boomed, "and let him come down to me." The other stones trembled, not from fear exactly. Stones do not feel fear the way you do, but we felt something shift. The air changed. The ground underneath us seemed to hold its breath. The voice belonged to a giant. His name was Goliath. I learned that later. At the time, I only knew that he was tall beyond imagining, covered in bronze armor that caught the sun and threw it back like a second sun, and that his voice carried the weight of a man who had never been told no. He stood on one side of the valley, and on the other side the army of Israel stood in silence. I watched them, the Israelite soldiers. They were not tall, their armor was not shiny. Their hands, I noticed, were shaking, not a little, a lot. Some of them had their eyes closed. Some of them were praying. Some of them were crying. Grown men, warriors, crying like children. And Goliath laughed. Every morning and every evening for 40 days, Goliath came out. Same voice, same challenge, same fear spreading through the Israelite camp like a sickness. And every morning and every evening no one answered. The other stones and I, we lay in the dry riverbed and we listened. 40 days of the same words, 40 days of silence from the other side, 40 days of fear growing heavier and heavier until the air itself seemed thick with it. And then on the 40th day, a boy came. I did not know he was a boy at first. He was smaller than the soldiers. That much was obvious. But from my place on the ground, everyone looked tall. What I noticed first was not his size, it was his pace. The soldiers walked slowly, reluctantly, their feet dragging as if the ground was trying to swallow them. This boy walked differently, not fast, not slow, but deliberately, as if he knew exactly where he was going and why. He walked through the camp. The soldiers looked at him. Some of them tried to stop him. I could hear their voices, urgent and worried. "You cannot go out there. He will kill you. You are just a boy." But the boy kept walking. His name was David. I learned that too from the whispers that followed him. David, the shepherd, the youngest son, the one his father had not even bothered to call when the prophet Samuel came to anoint a king. Rejected, overlooked, the last one anyone thought of. Sound familiar? He reached the edge of the camp. Goliath saw him. The giant laughed, not the way you laugh at a joke, the way you laugh at something pathetic, the way a wolf laughs at a lamb that has wandered too far from the flock. "Am I a dog," Goliath shouted, "that you come to me with sticks?" David did not flinch. I watched his face from the riverbed. The sun was behind him, so I could not see his eyes clearly, but I could see his mouth. It was not trembling, it was not open in fear. It was set, firm, determined. You come to me with a sword and with a spear and with a javelin, David said, his voice not loud but clear, carrying across the valley in a way that made everyone stop to listen. But I come to you in the name of the Lord of hosts, the God of the armies of Israel, whom you have defied. The valley went silent. Even Goliath stopped laughing. Then David turned, not toward the giant, toward the riverbed, toward us, toward the stones. He knelt down, his hand reached out, and he began to pick us up. One by one, his fingers closed around stones. 5 stones in total. That is what the story says. 5 smooth stones. He put them in his shepherd's bag. 4 of them went into the bag, but the fifth one he held in his hand. He held me. I do not know why he chose me. There were thousands of stones in that riverbed. I was not the biggest. I was not the roundest. I was not the shiniest. I was just a stone that had been walked on, a stone that had been overlooked, a stone that had been lying in the dirt for so long that I had forgotten I could be anything else. But his hand closed around me, and in that moment I felt something I had never felt before. Chosen. Psychology has a name for this feeling. It is called perceived social support, but that is not quite right for a stone. For a stone, it is something simpler, being seen. After years of being walked on, after decades of being invisible, a hand reached down and said, "You, not the other one, you." I do not know if David saw something in me that the other stones did not have. Maybe it was just chance. Maybe his fingers just happened to close around me, but I do not believe that anymore. I have had too many years to think about it, and I have come to believe that David chose me for the same reason that God chose David. Because I was small, because I was overlooked, because I was the kind of thing that giants do not see coming. David put me in his sling. I had never been in a sling before. It was made of leather, worn smooth from use. The shepherd boy had used this sling before, not against giants but against predators, lions, bears, wolves that came to steal his father's sheep. The sling knew David's hand. The leather had memorized the shape of his fingers. I was placed in the pocket, and then David began to spin. I want to describe this to you because it matters. The spinning was not slow. It was not gentle. It was fast and furious and terrifying. The world became a blur. The valley, the giant, the armies, the sun, the sky. All of it smeared into a circle of color and light. I could not tell which way was up. I could not tell where I was going. I could only feel the tension in the leather, the pressure of David's hand, the centrifugal force pulling me outward. I was flying before I knew I had left the ground. There is a moment in every journey that defines it. For me, that moment was the release. David let go. The leather opened, and I was hurled through the air faster than I had ever moved, faster than I knew a stone could move, flying straight toward the giant's forehead. Time slowed. I saw Goliath's face approaching. His eyes, they were not afraid. He had no reason to be afraid. He had been fighting for decades. He had seen swords and spears and javelins. He had never seen a stone coming from a shepherd boy's sling at the exact right angle, the exact right speed, to do what I was about to do. I hit him. The impact was not loud. That surprised me. I expected a crash, a crack, a sound that would echo through the valley, but the sound was soft, a thud, the sound of a stone finding its mark, the sound of a giant realizing too late that he was not invincible. Goliath fell. The ground shook when he hit it. I felt the vibration through the earth, through the riverbed, through the other stones that were still lying there, waiting to be chosen. And then there was silence. The silence lasted for 1 second, maybe 2, and then the Israelite army roared, not shouted, roared. The sound of men who had been afraid for 40 days suddenly realizing that the fear had been lying to them. The sound of an army that had forgotten how to fight suddenly remembering that they were the people of God. They ran, they chased the Philistines, they won the battle, and I lay in the dirt where I had fallen, covered in blood that was not my own, wondering what had just happened. I was not a weapon before that day. I was a stone, a rock, a thing that people walked on. But David had picked me up, put me in his sling, and thrown me at a giant, and the giant had fallen. That is what happens when God chooses something. Do you understand what I am telling you? I am not telling you that you are a stone. I am telling you that you have been lying in a riverbed somewhere, being walked on, being overlooked, being told that you are not the right shape or size or color to be useful. And I am telling you that there is a shepherd who is walking through that riverbed right now, looking for stones. Not the biggest ones, not the prettiest ones, not the ones that everyone else would choose. The ones that fit his hand. The psychology of rejection is brutal. I know this because I have watched it in humans. You internalize it. You start to believe that if no one chose you, it must be because there is something wrong with you. You start to believe that you belong in the dirt, that you are not weapon material, that you could never bring down a giant. But here is the truth that the valley taught me. Rejection is not a statement about your value. It is a redirection. Think about David. His own father did not even invite him to the anointing. The prophet Samuel came to Jesse's house to anoint the next king of Israel, and Jesse brought out all his sons, all of them except David. David was out in the fields with the sheep because his father did not think he mattered enough to call home. Rejected, overlooked, forgotten. And then Samuel said, "Are there any more?" And Jesse said, "Well, there is the youngest, but he is with the sheep." And Samuel said, "Send for him. We will not sit down until he comes." David walked in from the fields. His hands smelled like sheep. His hair was dusty. He was not tall like his brothers. He was not strong like his brothers. He was not impressive by any measure that the world uses to measure impressiveness. And God said, "Rise and anoint him. This is the one." The other stones in the riverbed were not bad stones. They were smooth. They were round. They could have done what I did, maybe. But David did not pick them. He picked me, not because I was better, because I was meant for this specific giant, this specific valley, this specific moment. That is how God works. He does not pick the best. He picks the one who will trust that being picked is enough. Now let me tell you what happened to me after the battle. I lay in the dirt for a long time. The armies moved past me. The shepherds came back with their sheep. The sun rose and set and rose again. No one picked me up. No one said, "This is the stone that killed the giant." They did not put me in a museum. They did not build a shrine around me. They left me in the dirt. At first I did not understand. I had done something extraordinary. I had killed a giant. I had saved an army. I had changed the course of history, and no one even noticed. But over time I began to understand something. The victory was not about me. It was about David. It was about God. I was just the vessel, and vessels, even the ones that kill giants, are not meant to be displayed. They are meant to be used and then returned to the ground where they can be found again when the next giant comes. This is where psychology and faith meet in a way that is hard to explain but easy to feel. We want to be recognized. We want our wounds to be seen. We want someone to say, "You killed a giant and we are grateful." But when we do not get that recognition, we start to doubt whether the giant actually fell. We start to doubt whether we were ever chosen at all. You were chosen, not because you are impressive, because the shepherd sees something in you that you cannot see in yourself. There is a concept in psychology called the spotlight effect. It is the tendency to believe that other people are paying more attention to us than they actually are. We think everyone is watching. We think everyone is judging. We think everyone noticed when we failed or when we succeeded or when we fell short. But here is the thing about the spotlight effect. It is a lie. Most people are too busy worrying about their own giants to watch you fight yours. After Goliath fell, no one was looking at me. They were looking at David. They were looking at the giant's head. They were running after the Philistines. I was just the stone that got left behind. And that was okay. Because I was not made to be remembered. I was made to be used. And when I was used, I did exactly what I was made to do. Have you ever thought about what you were made to do, not what you were told to do, not what you failed to do, not what you wish you had done, but what you were actually created for? David was made to be king. He did not know that when he was in the fields with the sheep. He did not know that when he walked out to face Goliath. He just knew that the giant was defying God and that someone had to do something. The stone was made to be thrown, not to sit in a museum, not to be admired, not to be remembered. To be thrown. And when it was thrown, it did exactly what it was made to do. You have been thrown, haven't you? Not into a giant's forehead, into something harder, a diagnosis, a divorce, a betrayal, a failure, a season of silence from God. You have been flying through the air, terrified, not knowing where you will land or what will happen when you get there. And you are wondering if you will hit the mark. Here is what I have learned in all my years of lying in that valley. The shepherd does not miss. When he picks you up and puts you in his sling and spins you around and lets you go, you will land exactly where he intended you to land. Not because you are accurate, because he is. The giant fell because David's hand was steady, and David's aim was true, and David's God was with him. The stone just went where it was sent. That is your job too, not to guarantee the outcome, not to make sure the giant falls, just to go where you are sent. There is a prayer that I have heard humans pray many times. It sounds like this: God, use me. I want to tell you something about that prayer. It is dangerous, not because God is dangerous, because being used by God is dangerous. When you say use me, you are saying throw me at a giant. You are saying send me somewhere I have never been. You are saying let me fly through the air without knowing where I will land. The stones that stayed in the riverbed were safe. They were not thrown. They were not flying. They were not risking anything. They were just lying in the dirt, being walked on, being overlooked, being comfortable. I was not comfortable. I was in a sling. I was spinning. I was flying. I was terrified. And I hit the giant. Your comfort zone is not where giants die. Your comfort zone is where giants win. Because the giants do not stay in the valley. They come out every morning and every evening and they challenge the armies of God. And the armies of God are terrified. And no one does anything until someone like David shows up. Someone who remembers that he killed a lion and a bear when no one was watching. Someone who knows that the same God who delivered him from the paw of the lion will deliver him from the hand of the giant. Someone who picks up a stone and throws it. That someone could be you. Psychologists call this self-efficacy. It is the belief that you can do something even if you have never done it before. David had self-efficacy because he had fought predators in the wilderness. He knew that God had been with him then, so God would be with him now. What predators have you fought? What lions have you faced? What bears have you defeated when no one was watching? Those were not wasted battles. They were training. They were practice. They were the riverbed where you were being shaped into the right size and the right shape to fit the shepherd's hand. You are not unqualified. You are being qualified. Every struggle, every failure, every moment when you wanted to give up but did not, those are the forces that made you smooth. Those are the waters that rounded your edges. Those are the pressures that made you hard enough to kill a giant. Do not despise the riverbed. It is where you were made. Now let me tell you about the other 4 stones. David picked 5 stones. One of them was me. 4 of them went into his bag and never left. They were not used. They were not thrown. They were carried to the battle and carried back from the battle, and no one ever knew what they could have done. At first I felt sorry for them. They were chosen but not used. They were picked up but never thrown. They were so close to glory and then they just went back to being stones. But I have thought about them differently over the years. They were not failures. They were reserves. They were the ones that would have been used if I had missed. They were the backup plan. They were the assurance that David could stand before the giant not with one stone but with 5, knowing that if the first one did not hit, there were more where that came from. You might feel like one of those 4 stones, chosen, picked up, put in the bag, but never thrown. You see other people killing giants and you wonder why you are still in the bag. I want to tell you something. The battle is not over. There are more giants. There are always more giants. Your moment may not have come yet, but that does not mean it will not come. The shepherd does not waste stones. He carried 4 stones through an entire battle and they were never used, and that was okay because they were there if he needed them. You are there if he needs you. Stay in the bag, stay ready. The giant might fall tomorrow. I have been in that valley for a long time now, thousands of years. I have seen armies march and empires rise and fall. I have seen shepherds come and go. I have seen the riverbed dry up and flood and dry up again. And I have seen countless humans walk past me, bent over, carrying their own giants on their shoulders. They do not see me. I am just a stone, a rock, a thing that people walk on. But every once in a while someone kneels down, someone looks at me, someone picks me up, someone puts me in their sling. And I remember what I am for. I am for throwing. There is a verse in the Bible that I have come to love. It is not a famous verse. It is not quoted on bumper stickers or tattooed on forearms. It is a quiet verse, hidden in the middle of a story about a king who was terrified and a prophet who was exhausted. But it says this: "The Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still." I have thought about that verse every time someone walked past me. The Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still. Being still is not passive. It is not giving up. It is not lying in the dirt and hoping someone notices you. It is the stillness of a stone that has been shaped by water and pressure and time, waiting for the hand that knows how to throw it. You are being still right now. You are reading this. You are waiting. You are wondering if your giant will ever fall. He will. Not because you are strong, because the one who picks you up is strong. Not because you are accurate, because the one who throws you does not miss. David was rejected by his father. He was overlooked by the prophet. He was dismissed by his brothers. And when he walked out to face the giant, he carried nothing but a staff and a sling and 5 smooth stones. The giant laughed. And then the giant fell. That is the pattern. That is always the pattern. The world laughs. The giant mocks. The experts say it cannot be done. And then God reaches down into the dirt, picks up something that everyone else walked past, and uses it to bring down something that everyone else was afraid of. You are that something. You are the stone that God has been shaping in the riverbed. You are the weapon that the enemy does not see coming. You are the one who has been overlooked, rejected, dismissed, and forgotten. And you are about to be thrown. Do not be afraid of the sling. It is spinning fast and the world is a blur and you cannot tell which way is up. That is okay. You are not supposed to see where you are going. You are supposed to trust the hand that is holding you. The hand that holds you is the same hand that shaped you, the same hand that chose you, the same hand that rejected the tall sons and picked the shepherd boy, the same hand that reached into the riverbed and closed around you. That hand does not miss. So hold on, the giant is coming, the valley is shaking, the armies of God are terrified. And you are about to fly. The stone that David chose did not become famous. It did not get a museum. It did not get a name. But it did what it was made to do. It killed a giant. You will not be famous either. Most of us are not. The world will not build a shrine around you. The armies will not sing songs about you. The shepherds will walk past you without knowing what you did. But the giant will fall. And that is enough. So here is what I want you to do. Go back to the riverbed. Look at the stones that are still lying there. Look at the ones that have been walked on and overlooked and forgotten. One of them is you. And one of them is the person you are going to throw. You see, the stone does not get to choose the giant. The stone does not get to choose the sling. The stone does not even get to choose the hand that picks it up. The stone just goes where it is sent. But you are not a stone. You are a person, and you have a choice. You can stay in the riverbed. You can stay safe. You can stay comfortable. You can stay walked on and overlooked and forgotten. Or you can stand up. You can walk toward the giant. You can let the shepherd pick you up and put you in the sling and spin you around and let you go. The giant will laugh. He always does. But giants have a way of falling when God's stones are flying. I have found David, son of Jesse, a man after my own heart. Acts 13:22. The Lord does not look at the things people look at. People look at the outward appearance, but the Lord looks at the heart. 1 Samuel 16:7. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Philippians 4:13. Like this video if you have ever felt rejected. Subscribe for more object stories, Bible truth, and psychological healing. Comment below, what giant is God asking you to face right now? Watch next, the rope that lowered Paul through the wall, why helplessness is actually a gift. Watch next, the scarlet cord hanging from Rahab's window, how a small thread changed generations. Object stories, Bible truth, psychological healing.